You guys just missed it. Like I literally, did you see that, Jeremiah, when I threw the focus right at the ground?
No, I
Did you
didn't.
hear that? Did you hear when I destroyed the $200 focus right that we bought for
This
Armageddon?
is the angst of pavement. This is the 90s. We're embracing it. It's raining
Yeah, it's
outside.
lo-fi. It's lo-fi, baby.
Yeah,
We
but
should
I go,
we
go
should
ahead.
be recording this podcast episode on cassette decks.
We should be.
You
Dude, do you know
know,
what we really should we should be doing this? Do you remember when like Fisher Price put out this video camera that you could
hmm
shoot using the audio cassettes?
yeah,
And it
yeah.
and it was like you're literally making like some French New Wave cinema. It's all staticky, and it's like Hiroshima Mon Amour or Breathless, and yet it's just me shooting, like me chasing after my cat in my parents'
Those
living room.
those were amazing. Those were amazing. I wonder if you can still find them.
Probably, I mean, you can find anything nowadays, man. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
one good thing about the internet, dude. I mean, the internet, we shit on it, but realistically, it connected people throughout the world. And I'm not just talking like, hey, I'm a car guy and you're a car guy. I'm talking about you can get down to like weird kinks. Like there's message boards for people that love having their testicles stepped on, and they can connect with one another. And now,
Well,
not feel so alone.
it's funny you bring that up because
Please say it.
this has to do
Please
with
say
your
it.
this has to do with your podcast, and
Okay.
I love getting my testicles stepped on, but I'm going to put that
Nice.
aside for the time being. And
Yeah.
I always tell young folks, because I'm kind of old now, I'm like grandpa television.
Yeah.
Like I was super into punk, indie, alternative, whatever you want to call it, in the 80s and 90s, and I was kind of what started me on that was, I would say, Clash, Elvis Costello, REM, XTC. There were a few in that kind of realm in the 80s. But when I heard REM's Murmur and then Reckoning, it was like, it just absolutely captivated me. But what do you do? Other than, some people in your class that might like them or whatever, there's no way to connect. There's no Reddit boards back in
Yeah.
1987
Yeah.
to connect with REM fans. And I remember going into this music store and there was an REM fanzine, like self-published from like New Orleans, stapled together, and they had sent some into this record store, and I bought it for like $1.75, and it was people writing essays about their lyrics and saying how much the music meant to them, and I was like, my people, I found my people in this little hand stapled basement printed fanzine.
Oh yeah.
And it felt absolutely magical and totally, I mean, obviously so much better now because, you can go to these message boards and no matter how obscure your interest, you can find, hundreds or thousands of fellow fans, be it REM or testicle
Yeah.
stomping. But
Yeah. It's out there,
Same
dude.
thing.
That's what's so great about the world. REM, much easier to find a group for REM, aside from the other thing, the latter, which we talked about.
I
But
don't know.
what,
These days, who knows?
who knows, man? I mean, there's only two people that I know in my life that have been huge fans of Pavement. One of them being you, and we're just meeting. Which thank you for coming on, and I'm
Yeah.
stoked. Especially this is always what makes me happy doing the
Don't say
podcast is
stoked.
when
Don't say stoked. Don't say stoked.
Why?
I'm jazzed up, jazzed. Okay,
Anything is better than stoked. I mean, come on. I mean,
is it? What's
are
your
we saying
is
stoked?
that-
Are we saying, have we come back around to stoked? I mean, are you
Stoked
saying it
is-
ironically?
No, it's never gone away. Stoked has always still been there because it's still like I look at it like I'm stoking the fire. I'm moving it around so I can get the
Stoked-
flames going.
I think stoked was like from like 85 to like 91, and then it's dead and buried. But
Really?
okay, you can say stoked. You can say stoked.
I'm talking about like the fire, building of fires. Jazzed is good.
Yeah.
You know what phrase I hate more than anything is when somebody says "cool beans." Cool
Oh, that's
beans,
terrible.
cool beans, or when they
Yeah.
call something the tits. Oh, I hate when they're like,
Oh,
"Oh, that's so
terrible.
tits." I'm
Yeah.
like, "Good
Yeah.
God."
Yeah.
No, good to know. I won't say stoked around you ever again.
Well, you could say tubular if you'd rather.
Radical,
So-
okay?
Radical has here to stay. Radical's not
Radical's
going
here.
anywhere.
You know what's rad? You know what is rad? The fact that you're on this podcast talking about a band like Pavement with probably their biggest record.
That was a good transition. That was a really good transition. And I'm sorry to rain on your parade, but I have to tell a rad story because I got to know Rivers Cuomo and he asked for help naming a Weezer record, and I named it Raditude. Speaking of rad, that it's one of their worst albums. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry, Weezer. Yeah.
What's on it?
Ratitude wait, are you saying does that exist? Are you Googling it? Raditude it came out about 10 or 15 years ago. I don't think there's maybe Beverly Hills is on it. I think maybe.
Oh no.
That's the Green album, right?
Yeah, but I named it Raditude. So you're talking about Radical. I'm just bragging a little bit for my rock and roll street cred.
You named this.
I named it. Great cover.
It is a good cover.
Sorry, Josh. I totally rained in your parade.
No.
You made an expert podcast transition.
No.
Let her rip, baby.
Let's before I even get into that, because Rainn, I have always, kind of, thought you were this, not just as an actor, but just with your persona in Los Angeles and Hollywood and being somebody, in front of the camera. There's something very cool about you. And not just the characters that you've played, but even you sitting there with the hat, with the beard. You look like you might be in a log cabin somewhere. I don't know. Is that an award? Is that a Buddha doll behind you? Who knows? But
awards,
so
Buddhas. Yep. Mm-hmm.
But musically, are you a music snob? Would you say that? Would you say you're somebody that judges other people's music?
I'm a music snob in terms of contemporary pop music. I just don't fucking get it. Yeah. I would say music from, just the last I mourn the death, the death of rock and roll that kind of transpired over the last 10 or 15 years. It hurts me. And the fact that bands like Chainsmokers are considered a rock band,
Wow.
And, and I just don't get pop music, and it all sounds the same, and it's just overplayed. And I just don't understand young people. I don't get it. And I sound like a grumpy old man, but so I grew up in suburban Seattle, and it was all KZOK and KISW classic rock stations, and it was all Stones, Who, Beatles, AC/DC, a lot of metal, and a lot of great stuff and a lot of crap. And then a friend of mine in my junior year of high school, or end of my sophomore year, slipped me 2 cassettes, the 2 earliest Police albums, and London Calling, and it was watching the Detect My Aim Is True, Elvis Costello, and slipped me these cassettes, and all of a sudden my entire life changed. But you couldn't find this shit unless you went into the University District to one of 3 record stores. You couldn't find the music that was kind of changing the world in terms of punk, new wave, alternative indie, whatever you want to call it, everything in that world. But it really, and at that same time, Josh, I was moving high schools from suburban Seattle, total working class, fishing boat, logger, Boeing, working class Seattle neighborhood. And I moved to this fancy pants neighborhood north of Chicago, in Wilmette, Winnetka, Illinois. And boy, that beard scratch was really loud. Do that again.
was that a Lecodon scratch?
Dude, I am a mess right now, dude. I feel like I'm going through opiate detox. I'm just oh God, just my skin's jumping out of my thing. I'm sweating. Oh, my legs wet. It's just everything,
What's happening
dude.
Over there? What's happening?
Dude, I got in. I literally flew. I've been gone for a week. I flew in last night. I did 3 shows in the cellar. I slept for 5 hours. I woke up, started digging into this with Morty, because I've got You Today. I got was it God Save the Queen or The Queen is Dead by the Smiths. I've got that record, and then I'm doing Green Day, American Idiot, and then I gotta leave at 6:00 to get to LaGuardia. So, and then I'm going to Indianapolis, and then just a week of stuff. So I don't handle stress well, dude.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
You think so?
Yeah, I
believe
think you're
in you.
doing great. Can I finish my story now?
Go ahead,
Enough
dude.
about
Go ahead.
you.
I'll
okay?
stop
Jesus.
schwitzing over here.
Um, uh, so, anyways, it's a good story. I moved to this fancy pants high school called New Trier High School north of Chicago. It's literally the high school that John Hughes based all of his fancy, 16 candles kind of stuff on. And I saw this opportunity to reinvent myself from a total pimply geek who was on the chess team and on marching band and Model United Nations to like, I can be like the punk new wave guy. So I had a Clash t-shirt. I had I think I had even a skinny piano tie.
Yeah, you did.
Yes, I did. And I came in just on fire with all of these bands. And so, this kind of music really changed my life and saved my life in a way. So that, that kind of rock from 82 to, to 15 years ago when rock died, really transformed me. It's super, super important to me. And Pavement, we'll get to Pavement, but that band, more than almost any other. Yeah.
So you probably started when it really started transitioning into the alt is like you just you found that and you just fucking ran with the way that you said you found REM and all these other bands, and then you're going back and listening to arguably some of the most respected. And what I was saying is in that, I don't want to call it the cool kid circle, but it's like the people that like Elvis Costello. There's something about they're an intellectual of sorts. It's like he's not only this great musician, but he's actually saying something in his music. Whereas the other shit that's going on, especially out at that time, is all like you're coming out of the arena rock of the early '80s and '70s into hair metal. What'd you think of hair metal? Were you just go fuck yourself
metal.
or
I
really?
hated it. Yeah.
Nobody stuck out Guns N' Roses or just all of it.
Guns N' Roses is not hair metal, and
right.
I think that their classic album, what is that? Welcome to the Jungle.
Appetite for Destruction. Yeah,
Appetite for Destruction was great. Was a great rock album, more closer to the Rolling Stones than it was to Twisted Sister.
Sure.
Sure. I did like them, but I didn't like any other hair metal. I thought it was ridiculous. And we're gonna get to Cut Your Hair off of Crooked Rain, which is making fun of the hair metal of the time.
I'm teasing this, dude. I'm teasing this. I'm trying to figure out how we're gonna dipsy do right into suddenly Pavement, because this is a band, and I want you to take me to about 1992. I think their first record came out. So where are you? What's going on in your life? Like when the band Pavement is emerging and this scene is kind of going on. Like, are you?
Well, right before this, I had discovered Pixies, and then Nirvana was around 90, around the same time. I think 89 they call the year punk broke. So I was full on into that wave, and I actually saw Pixies in concert opening for They Might Be Giants.
Oh wow!
Yeah, crazy in 89, and that was nuts. I was into Yola Tango early stuff then, and what? How did this happen? There was a time 92, 93 when the amount of great music that was coming out was just staggering. It was jaw dropping. Yeah. I was working in the theater. I was a theater actor. So I had a little bit of a budget. I could buy one CD per week. And I remember I was working for a long time in Washington, D.C. at this theater called the Arena Stage. And I would go every week. And I would just go to these, I would track down the hipster record stores out in the crazy hipster neighborhoods. And I would go see shows at the 930 Club. I saw a lot of great bands there, including Pavement. And I would just ask the guys, what should I be listening to? And I remember there was right at that time, 92-ish, I got Guided by Voices, B1000, and I got Liz Phair, Exile in Guyville, and I got Slanted and Enchanted, all in the same like month. And I couldn't believe like those 3 albums, how amazing they were. They were literate, they were punky, they were angry, they were fucked up, they were poetic, and they all had kind of a punk edge, but they were like so fucking smart. And then I got to go see Pavement. I think it was the Black Cat, I think it was, in 93. And it was an amazing show. And it was just pure chaos on stage. It was just
I bet.
nuts.
By the way, you're speaking me and Jeremiah's language right now. I'm going to pull this off the wall, but this is one of my most important things when I sold out the 930 Club in Washington, D.C. in June of 2022, man. Is like as a dream of mine, because growing up in the Washington, D.C. area and being like a music fan, like you said, Black Cat, 930 Club, that was it. Yeah. That was as big as you could get, in my opinion, if you played the 930 Club, especially, once I started finding out the history of that club. And for you to say that, you saw Pavement, yet the Black Cat, which is like,
so small,
the smaller, the dungier, the darker, just Pabst Blue Ribbon on the floor and just a fucking party. And to be able to see Pavement there, I mean, that must have been insane, right?
It was nuts. It was nuts. There were a bunch of people that came in with big hair who liked Cut Your Hair as the single, because they were playing it on whatever the local like alt indie
WHFS.
That was it.
Yeah, 99.1.
They came in, they waited for that song, they heard the single. The rest of it was like a sonic shit show, which I loved. They were just endless weird jams, kind of half starting songs and then finishing them halfway. It was like a Replacements show, and I remember a whole bunch of these. Like it was kind of like suburban girls from Alexandria or something that got their hair all done up and came in. They heard the one hit song and then they were like, let's get the hell out of here. But it was great. That was it was such an exciting time, man. Those especially those early 90s in the music world. And I got to see Nirvana.
Oh wow.
I think their last US concert before Kurt died in New York. So but yeah, Pavement.
So what was it that drew you to Pavement when you're listening to, you're getting all those records, like you said, in the same week? Liz Phair, Exit to Guyville is a record we covered on this podcast. It's considered one of the 500 greatest, and and rightfully so. It totally deserves to be in there because all the things that you said. Pavement, on the other hand, is I would say Liz, I don't want to say much more successful, but to me, maybe more well-known than Pavement. I don't think a lot of people know Pavement. So it was like, who turned you on? And then what was it that you were so attracted to about him?
All I remember, here's one thing that I remember, is putting on Slanted and Enchanted, and the second song, Trigger Cut, lies and betrayals, fruit-covered nails, electricity and lust won't break the door. And the way his lyrics and these kind of like searing guitars that were just all over the place, it just was like, it was like a punch in the gut. It was, I don't know what it is. It was just this absolutely visceral experience for me. And the same thing happened when Swiftly there. I was lucky because I got that one, and like the next one was coming out. I got it late. And then when Crooked Rain came out early in 93, it was the same thing. It was, Silence Kid and Elevate Me and just I don't know how to describe it. It was like, it felt like rock and roll from 1972 in a lot of ways. and it felt completely punk and modern, and then had these lyrics that were like this obscure poetry that you would just, you could listen to 1,000 times and be like, oh, I think I understand what he's singing about, and like, no, it's something you can never put your finger on it. And in a weird way, like, just these crazy kids in Stockton kind of reinvented rock and roll and what rock and roll did. And that was happening just like Liz Phair did the same thing, in Chicago. She kind of reinvented rock and roll with this angry, literate, disturbed girl in Wicker Park, and singing her sexual history, and reinvented and reinvigorated rock and roll. And Pavement did the same thing, and their influence was just absolutely huge.
Huge! Yeah, it's crazy how they're one of those. It's like the same thing that people say about the Village, not the Village Underground, the
Velvet Underground.
Velvet Underground. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the club at the cellar. It's like that everybody, that they only sold 30,000 copies of their album, but every person that bought a copy of that record went on to start a band. It's like you can hear the influence of this group in the music that's come out, whether it was the later grunge or the early 2000 shit with like the Strokes and all of that. It's like there's a real sound. For the people that don't know, so let me give my little spiel about who Pavement is and the record we're doing. We're doing Crooked Rain. Crooked Rain is the second studio record from the indie band Pavement, released on Valentine's Day, 1994. Oh, that's pretty cool. We're almost the anniversary of it. The album saw the band move on towards a more accessible rock sound than that of their more lo-fi debut, Slanted and Enchanted, which actually came in at 135 on this list. So that record is on this. They achieved moderate success with the single Cut Your Hair. The album saw original drummer Gary Young replaced by Steve West. It was a UK top 20 hit upon release, although it was not successful in the US charts. And if you really want to break down, you had mentioned it, they formed in Stockton, which is such a shit area of California. You know what I mean?
It is the armpit of California. Stockton, Modesto, so many of those Central Valley.
It's where the meth comes from, right? Or goes to,
it's where the meth. It's where dreams go to die. It's it's really something. You got to experience it if you haven't been there. It's a whole thing.
So I want to talk about, I'm going to focus before we even get into the record. I want to focus this on the lead singer. I hope I don't fuck his name. Stephen Malkmus. Did I say that right? Is it last name Malkmus? Okay. So he's born in Santa Monica, moves to Stockton when he's 8. He meets Scott Canberg as a teen. They work various jobs, including painting houses and flipping burgers at the country club. I found this really interesting story about him who was as a kid. At age 16, he spent the night in jail after getting drunk and walking on the roofs of several residential homes. Later, he was expelled from school for going to a party in the woods where people were taking mushrooms. He didn't take them, but somebody narked on him, which I just wanted to ask is, like, have you ever been narked on?
Have I been narked on?
Yeah, when you're in your years of party.
I was never cool enough to get narked on for anything, and I was a very good student. I got into trouble. That's when I actually, around this time, and then in the early 90s was when I started to like go off the rails a little bit. But in high school, I was like straight A student, and like I said, super nerdy. I will say that I share this with Stephen Malkmus. I was arrested with my friends for toilet papering houses when I was like 14. But we would do really interesting things. We wouldn't just toilet paper houses. We would, we call ourselves a taco terrorists, because one of the things we would do is we buy jumbo industrial packs of tacos and we put taco shells all over people's lawns.
Yeah.
And then we get like whipped cream or shaving cream or something and fill the tacos. So you'd been tacoed. Your house had been tacoed.
Yeah.
And then we also got like industrial packs of plastic forks, and we would stick them all over people's lawns so you'd get forked. So we would do interesting, we could do slightly cerebral nerdy ways of
Yeah.
of hurting people's property. But we got arrested because we were going to buy toilet paper and eggs at a 7-Eleven at like 3 a.m, dressed in camo gear.
Yeah, dude.
The guy called the cops, and the Lake Forest Park Police Department of Lake Forest Park, Washington, just north of Seattle, came in and called our parents and had us taken home. But
I remember we used to throw trash can lids at cars, hoping that people would think they're UFOs. And we got one of the guy. We hit some guy's car. He pulled over and he like came out and got all like, of course he's mad. And he's like, and it's a dark guy. He's like, "What are your names?" And I'm like, "My name's Josh." And he's like, "What's your last name?" And I'm like, "Uwa." That didn't work. But that's all normal kid shit, dude. So
sure.
We didn't do anything bad. Yeah,
but no, never been narked on.
No. So here you go. Pavement officially forms in Stockton in January '89 as a studio project of guitarist vocalist Stephen Malkmus and Scott Canberg, known originally as SM and Spiral Stairs. Canberg had previously started a band of the same name and played one show in '87. Their debut EP was this lo-fi release, Stay Tracks 63 to 69. They did Demolition, Plaid J7, and Perfect Sound Forever. They were recorded at the home studio of Stockton local and former hippie Gary Young, who also played drums on the recording. This is what I love, is what I was trying to get to. Upon first hearing the duo songs, Young was quoted as saying, "This Malkmus idiot is a complete songwriting genius." Do you agree with that?
I do. Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever heard the song Box Elder? I think it's off from their very first EP.
No.
Yeah, it's brilliant. But the chorus is, "I want to get the fuck out of this town." It's about it's about Box Elder. It's a town, Box Elder. I don't know if that's a real town. Anyway, it's he breaks the rules. It's pretty rare that you're going to find kind of verse, chorus, bridge in any Pavement song. But he is an incredible songwriter, and he's kind of like hipster handsome too,
Yeah. Let me ask you this, because I want to talk about, because if this band is basically broken down to the genius of Stephen, with all the other members being accoutrements and being extremely important, I want to talk about another genius that you've worked with that a lot of us love, who is Ricky Gervais. What was that like the first time you met Ricky Gervais? Was it during the audition process, or was it like that you met him before, or?
I had been cast in The Office, and we met Ricky and Steven. They came out to LA. We did kind of a read through for them to get their kind of feedback. We heard about how they created the show. And one of the things I loved about how they, and this is kind of how art works, I think, is the whole mockumentary thing was, they only did it because they didn't have any money. They were given by the BBC, like, here's $200,000 to make like 6 episodes for your first season. I mean, just a ridiculously little amount of money. And they're just like, shit, how are we going to shoot this? And they're like, well, we've got to shoot, X number of scenes per day, and we only have so much time, and, we have to pay the actors. And blah, blah. So we'll just make it like people look at the cameras, and the cameras are right there, like they're filming a documentary. That was completely just a cost-cutting measure.
Wow.
It wasn't like this, like, well pondered. And I think that expediency kind of provokes genius sometimes. And that element, I mean, there's so many genius things that Ricky and Steven did in creating the original British Office, but that element is so funny to me that it came out of kind of budget cuts, essentially. But they it was amazing, and they always, encouraged us. I will say that I think that earlier on, I had been used to kind of like auditioning, and I had acted in some kind of larger kind of comedies, but to like, it was a struggle at first to kind of bring Dwight down, to bring him, like, because he's so odd in so many ways, and to kind of just bring him so you felt like he's absolutely a real character in a documentary. especially in those first couple seasons. And they definitely encouraged that direction, which helped me as an actor a lot. But they were always really encouraging and stuff like that. I think there's for a while there, Ricky was pissed off that we kind of eclipsed the British office, but
Sure.
I can see it.
I think ultimately he was appreciative of the paychecks.
So I was going to say, it's like this is your creation, and I understand what he's saying. The British show ran for what, 2 seasons and a special, and then the American one. I mean, is the American show is. I mean, I imagine you've talked to a million people that have said this to you. But I've dated 3 girls that all they do is whatever they're doing in their house, they have The Office on in the background, and just how much of a it's its own subgenre of entertainment almost. And it's changed basically. That's so funny that you're saying that they weren't into the mockumentary, because now it feels like so many things went mockumentary because of that, because of the gold that you guys were able to. Do you think if it would have gone the other way, it wouldn't have been as good, if it would have been more of a scripted, like just, act 1, act 2, act 3?
There was a time when we were getting right before we were going to shoot, when Jeff Zucker, the head of NBC, was like, I want it to be a multicam. He wanted to turn The Office to a multicam, and Greg Daniels was like, then I quit. And they were far enough along the production process at that point. And Greg Daniels had an incredible pedigree. He had been on Seinfeld. He had created King of the Hill. He had been on Saturday Night Live and all of these incredible shows. And so he had this kind of incredible pedigree that you're not going to find anyone better. So and the whole reason why we shot almost scene for scene the British pilot was not because Greg didn't think he could write a better American version. It was to keep the network off our backs. It was, again, out of expedience, like, hey, you guys said you like the British Office and you like the British pilot, and it works, so we're just kind of shooting that. So they would try and give notes and be like, oh, I thought we were just going to shoot the British Office because you liked that. You said you liked that, right? So it kind of kept the studio off our backs.
Oh, good, dude.
Interesting.
Dude, that's so great.
They should rename the Peacock network to the Office.
The Office. Oh my God, dude.
Because how many? I mean, I had another show on Peacock, this travel show called The Geography of Bliss, which I'm very proud of, and I really love doing. It was traveling the world looking for happiness. But no one. I mean, what is it like? It's got to be 65% of people. The reason that they turn on Peacock is to watch The Office. So
100%.
How,
Here, I want to ask you this, because you brought up the Geography of Bliss, and I have this question already written out. So we'll do this. This is how I'm going to swing it into the album. The photo on the middle of the cover was originally published in the 78 issue of National Geographic, just in case anybody wants to look at the cover of this record, and they'll now know where that's from. But you mentioned that you just did the show Rainn Wilson and the Geography of Bliss. And what I want to know is, where did you find the most enchanted, which did you find the most enchanted, or positive, and where was the most slanted, negative, difficult?
Wow, slanted and enchanted. Nice way to weave that into the question.
Thanks, man. Thanks, dude.
Well, the first 2 episodes were, Enchanted is Iceland, and it's one of the happiest places on earth. Although I will say it's one of the countries where they're on the most antidepressants. So I don't know if there's a correlation there. I mean, highest happiness, highest antidepressants. I don't know. Do the math. But it's pretty friggin' beautiful. Have you been there, Josh? Have you been to Iceland?
No. You know what's funny is I'm taking 6 weeks off, and I'm thinking about going there next month, because I have nothing to do. I'm having vocal cord surgery, so I'm like, I might just go to Iceland. I heard it's gorgeous.
It is amazing. I don't know what it's like in March, though. I mean, it's going to be pretty. Yeah, it's going to be blistery, but it's going to be great. No, regardless, it's going to be. It's incredibly beautiful. But you got to get out. Reykjavik is fine and fun, but you got to really get out of the capital.
Okay, sure.
But that was the Enchanted, and the Slanted was our second episode, which is Bulgaria, which is one of the unhappiest countries on the planet. And but that being said, it's a really beautiful place. The food was great. People are really nice. It's gorgeous. There's mountains and trees and valleys and hillocks and little there's beauty everywhere there in Bulgaria. So we did find some happiness, but it's a pretty fucked up country in that it has been like the Turks ran it forever, and then the Nazis ran it, and then the Soviets ran it, and everyone had to spy on their neighbor, and they've never really had freedom other than the last like 20 years. So it's pretty screwed up.
Are you prescribing antidepressants to them so they can?
That's what we need to do.
Up like
we need to ship some antidepressants from Iceland over to Bulgaria.
Balance it out a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Who wants Wellbutrin? Nobody? Anybody? Okay. That's so great though that you get to do that. Dude, and then like I'll get to the other question too, but it's like I'm just researching this and going over like your career and the shit that you've done. It's like, dude, you please tell me you take a look back and you're just like, fuck yeah, man, it's been really groovy. Can I say groovy or no?
You could say groovy is good. Yeah.
Okay.
Dope is good too.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing I hate is when people are like, that's Coolio. You know, Coolio. Remember that?
Yeah.
Listen, I hear him, this nerdy kid from Seattle, and toilet paper and forks and Dungeons and Dragons and then Elvis Costello, and then I end up going to theater school and I'm doing theater, and I'm just this weird looking moderately talented actor. The fact that I got to come to LA and be on this incredible show and get to do some cool movies and write some books and do some of it's incredible. It's amazing. It's absolutely beyond anything I could have possibly imagined as a career for myself. And you know what, Josh? Sometimes it's still not fucking enough. And I'm like, why am I not in a movie right now? And I've had this epic career, and so you know how that goes.
Trust me, dude. I am constantly. But that's the thing, is that there's the cool shit that we get to do, like just like this. Just be able to come on and talk about Pavement is like the fact that we get paid to do it, or I get paid to do it. You don't. I do. Jeremiah kind of makes a little bit of money, but you don't. But we'll throw you something. I'll throw you something.
Throw me something? You gotta.
I'll Venmo you.
Come on. Yeah. Okay. That's great.
Let's talk about some of the songs on this record, because there's so much cool shit that I got from this. Let's talk about the first song, Silence Kid, the opening of the record. Thoughts on the opening track? Yeah, really just a fucking. There's like 4 songs in this song. I don't know if you guys hear that. Mm-hmm. It's I can't think of the. Please help me on this. There's like the song.
Silence Kid, no one to remind you. Got nothing. I don't know. I always.
But you know the song that I'm saying? It's like. Every day things are getting closer. That's what I heard. Yeah. So it's like it can't not be in what he was writing this. He had to have heard that in his head, I'm assuming.
I was talking to a friend about I don't know about that. I was talking to a friend about Tom Petty's album Wildflowers and how many great songs there are like in a row. And I think that I have never really been in a band, but I just know some musicians, and I know how hard it is to write like one really solid, good song that lasts through the decades. Like to write one is so hard. And then when you've got an album like, and I talk about Wildflowers. I forget the songs on it right now, but the first like 4 or 5 songs on Wildflowers are just like great song after great song. And it's this the same with this album. Silence Kid, Elevate Me Later, Stop Breathing. Those 3 are great. Cut Your Hair is fun. Newark Wilder is weird. Then Unfair, Gold Sounds, which is by most people consider Gold Sounds to be Pavement's very best song ever, like the ultimate Pavement song. And then you get into Range Life, like the fact that there are 6 like great songs that we're talking about 30, 35 years later as just defining the 90s on one album. And this is only one of their many albums that it's incredible how many great songs they wrote. And while fighting with each other and passing out drunk and stoned and touring and falling apart, they only did 5 albums. 5 albums and like 3 EPs, and that was it. They burned bright, my friend. They burned bright.
Yeah. But the people that love them. I had friends that like loved this band. They loved Silence Kid. I remember going over to Matt Beinfest, who Jeremiah, you might have met back in Baltimore, but they were obsessed with him, Sam Precock, the Sea and Cake. They loved that lo-fi sound. And then Silence Kid, I always remember them playing it. Funny fact about this song, though, it has often been erroneously referred to as Silence Kit due to a mistake in the original album's artwork. Although it's been corrected, the mistake was so common that it was made again on the back cover of the reissue years later, which I found interesting. But then I wanted to ask you, what mistake or misstep in your life has proven to be rewarding for you?
Wow, that's a good
question.
That's a heavy question. That's good.
Thanks, man.
I would say, like, you just never know. Like, I auditioned. So the show that I did before The Office was called 6 Feet Under. It was on HBO, and I kept trying to get on that show, and they kept trying to get me on the show in much smaller roles than the one that I ultimately did. I ultimately did 13 episodes in this character called Arthur, and it's kind of what put me on the map as an actor. And I kept striking out at all of these other roles, and they were co-stars and guest stars and, gay choir member number 2 and dead guy number 3 and Phil the florist and, little roles like this. And I kept bombing my auditions and not getting cast. And then finally, I asked actually, like, hey, can I audition for this other role I see that's coming up that looks like it's meteor? And they said, yeah. And I ended up getting that. So I always look at that as like, this is kind of how life works. Like, I kept failing and getting rejected over and over again on a show I really wanted to do. And the casting directors really wanted to get me on. And I really was kicking myself, but, for a very good reason. Like, ultimately it led to a bigger role in a better part. And I wouldn't have gotten Dwight on The Office if I hadn't gotten Arthur on 6 Feet Under. 100%. I absolutely wouldn't have. So,
and what's funny too is that I was just thinking about that is both of those partners. I love 6 Feet Under. It was one of my favorite shows that HBO has ever done. But like Arthur is pretty much just it's an extended version almost of Dwight. It just down to the look. Like, do you ever feel limited by that image, or like you want to break out of that look, or is it just like, this is what works and I'll just keep doing it?
Yeah, it was interesting. That was kind of what I was doing at the time because it was getting me a lot of work. Like, I played also like creepy guy in Supermarket on CSI, and I played like creepy janitor on Law and Order. So I was kind of doing this kind of thing that was like getting me cast, where I was like in glasses and I was a little bit, like on the spectrum and odd and finding, odd ways of being in character. And there was it was getting me work. I was paying off student loans by playing this kind of character. And Arthur, I think if you look back on it, you see that Arthur's pretty different than Dwight. He's very demure and kind of quiet and very gentle and kind of withdrawn. But there is an oddness there that is very similar. And yeah, it really typed me for a long time. I think a lot of times people just thought like, oh, he plays the weird, creepy, nerdy guys. And I kind of do. I'm kind of that. I hopefully I'm not that creepy, but I am a little bit weird and nerdy. And so it's been tough. And it's been tough too, to kind of like, when you're known as this character, Dwight, that's on like coffee mugs and tea towels and Target, you know.
I know. That's insane, dude.
It's everywhere, and memes that people send every day. It can limit you, you know, as an actor, to just get known as that. So that can be problematic.
But do you ever? Let me ask you, because I'm just saying. I mean, it's very few people that we've talked to on the show that have done stuff that is, you know, like generational, where it's just like this one piece of art that you've contributed to. Like you said, it's bigger than a TV show now. Is like, do you ever have moments where you're just like, maybe I am done. Maybe I could just enjoy the rest of my life and just be married and listen to records and enjoy my money and fucking travel the world, or you know what I mean? It's like, do you still like, are you still just for the most part like does that, or at least just like, I'm gonna work, but I only want to do like cool projects like theater or this, and go back to your roots?
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm trying to do. I've been trying to like go back to theater, get, you know, because I did theater for like 10 years before I did any TV or film. Yeah, I don't know. I do wrestle with that. Sometimes I feel like, fuck, maybe I should just go have a sheep farm in Iceland and throw in the towel. I've done great. This is great. It's been a great ride. Is there some other way that I can enjoy my life right now? And, you know, I've been doing a lot of writing and kind of lecturing on, you know, mental health stuff and spirituality and stuff like that. So I'm really enjoying doing that. But I don't think I'll ever quit acting. I think hopefully I get some, you know, I've gotten to play some really cool roles, and hopefully that continues. But, you know, I'm not so kind of, my life used to be just total career obsession about where's my next acting role and how do I get a bigger role, and you know what that's like. That's the kind of Hollywood grind, and I don't have to worry about that so much anymore.
Yeah.
So, and I just went to this like fan convention, you know, signing autographs and getting pictures with fans and stuff like that. And you make a really nice living just doing that. And so I kind of don't have to worry about the money so much anymore. So I'm in a great position if I can just stay out of my own way.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like, this is like, you know, you do the, you know, you do the rocker. You get to actually have a cameo by Pete Best in it.
Yeah.
You know, which is insane. Cool. What's the story to get him on there? And did you get to talk to him and ask him any questions?
Yeah. So The Rocker's a film I did in 2008, I think, 2009. And right when The Office was taken off. And and can I tell you a funny story before the Pete Best story?
Please.
There's a rock and roll audience, hopefully. We went in a final pitch for the movie to the studio head at Fox, and the Sean Levy, the executive producer, is like, here's the budget. We can do it. We can fit it in here. It's going to be great. Rainn's going to be great. And my phone just died. Sorry, Jeremiah. I don't have any more backup.
Okay, no worries.
Audio after this.
It sounds great though.
All right. So he's like, it's going to be great. And the guy's like, well, really, Rainn Wilson is a rock and roll guy? I don't know. Dwight, I think of him as a nerd and kind of weird. I don't know, rock and roll. And he had it queued up on his laptop. He opens up his laptop and he had it queued up where there's a scene with Michael and with Dwight and Michael on a roof. And Dwight is like, they're celebrating, and Dwight is like rocking out and playing air guitar. And he's like, I'm going to kiss the sun. And he's like doing kicks and like, kind of some heavy metal stuff. And he had that all cute. He knew that question was going to be asked. He opened his laptop. He played that scene. It was 90 seconds. And he showed it to the studio head. And he's like, all right, let's do it.
Nice.
So it's pretty great. It's also pretty dumb that guy could just be convinced from seeing like a clip.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got so we got the movie greenlit, and then I started taking drum lessons, and the producer called Pete Best and is like, listen, we're doing a movie about a drummer that gets kicked out of a band, and the band goes on to be really famous. That's kind of the heart of the film, and we'd love to have you come out and do a cameo. Maybe you can relate. And he was game, man. He was game. Cool. And I got to hang with him and interview him, and we had a scene, it was kind of cut out, but he made an appearance in the film, but the actual scene itself was cut out. But I felt the thing I felt good about Pete was, like, for a long time he was really struggling, and he kind of had a band and he was touring, but then when they released like the Beatles anthology and the old stuff, there was stuff that Pete Best had played on that was getting released. So he got a cut of that. So all of a sudden, like, he came into some real money, like, later in life. So he was kind of taken care of, and I felt, okay, that's good.
Oh, thank God. That's a happy ending to it. Well, I mean, you can imagine what that's like. I mean, especially on that level, the Beatles, like, that's as big as it could ever get. And especially during that time when, like I always say, it's like people were like, well, how big were the Beatles? I was like, dude, there was nothing. There were like 3 TV stations. So if the Beatles were on one of them, that was it. In your mind, what was because we're talking about big breaks. In your mind, what was supposed to be your big break but didn't work out? Did you have something that was like before The Office, before 6 Feet Under, that you were like, this is going to be it, and then shit didn't hit the fan?
Well, I mean, I'd done a bunch of pilots, and you never know, like with a TV pilot, if it's going to go or not. But I would just go right back to the rocker, because comedies were selling really well at the time. The Office was a big hit show. This was my chance to, like, this was my starring movie. It had an incredible cast: Emma Stone, Josh Gad, Jeff Garland, Dimitri Martin, Jane Lynch. The list goes on and on. And Bradley Cooper was in it in a supporting role.
Wow. Maestro was in it.
Maestro was in it as a heavy metal musician, and it bombed. I mean, it bombed.
So good though.
Time.
It's good, dude. It's a good movie.
People still like it.
Yeah, I loved it.
Still love it, but that was pretty devastating because I worked so hard on it, and then I was crisscrossing the country promoting it and going to screenings, and it just, I don't even think it made like $3 million opening weekend or something like that, and it cost like $15 million to make, and it was that was devastating. And then the movie opportunities after that pretty much dried up for me. I was hoping for a little bit more of a movie career off capitalizing in The Office, but I got to do some cool shit, and it's all good. It's all gravy. It's all icing.
Yeah, it is icing. It's great. All right, let's talk about a couple songs, then we'll start wrapping this up. I want to talk about Gold Sounds, because this is the second single from the record. It is one of Pavement's most popular songs. Paste magazine ranked it number 1 of the 15 greatest Pavement songs. Consequences of Sound ranked at number 2 of the 10 greatest Pavement songs, and Pitchfork listed it at number 1 of the top 200 tracks of the 90s. However, it's still not that widely known outside of their fans. I'm not going to lie. I didn't know this song until I listened to this record. Did it stick out to you when you first heard the record out of all this stuff on there? What stuck out to me was Cut Your Hair, of course, because I love Pardon the Interruption on the ESPN show with Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser, and that's the song. That's the theme song to each episode.
Nice.
So I knew that, and then Range Life. Those were the 2 songs I knew before going into it. But
because Range Life started a whole thing with. Because he's making fun of Smashing Pumpkins on there. He says in Range Life, out on tour with the Smashing Pumpkins, nature kids, they don't have no function, something like that. And there was a whole big thing. They were like dissing
Stone Temple Pilots, yeah.
Yeah, and Stone Temple Pilots, those elegant bachelors.
Yeah, dude.
So they were taking the piss out of these hugely popular bands at the time, and supposedly it got them banned from Lollapalooza, and Billy Corgan threw a shit fit when he heard it.
Whoa, I believe it. I believe it. I didn't realize it. I remember hearing the names in there, but I was just like, oh, it just sounded good in the sentence, and you're like, oh no, now thinking about what you're saying, 100%, it's definitely a diss.
It was a lot of rock and roll drama because Pavement were considered like the coolest of the cool kids, and so that can't have felt very good, but.
And they're from Chicago, Smashing Pumpkins, right? So Billy Corgan's holds sway in Chicago. But they played the next year, I was reading. Pavement did, even though they got kicked out in 94. But they were not happy about that, clearly.
Yeah. So that had some controversy, but
diss track. It's a what is it? A post-punk diss track?
Oh yeah.
We don't have a lot of those.
Yeah. And by the way, one thing we haven't talked about Pavement that's so cool is the guy Bob, and he's got a long Polish name, Nasturchevich or whatever his name is. He was best buddies, Nastanovich. He was best buddies with Malkmus, and he was the secondary drummer, and he was like, what do they call that in a rap group? It's almost like Flava Flav. It's kind of like a
hype man. The hype man.
A hype man. Yeah. He was like on the he'd be on the snare and the cowbell, and he would just shout things into the microphone, and he would dance around like a bacchanalian devil on the stage, and he was just be smashing stuff and grabbing the mic, and it was like this. Here was this rock band, and here is Pan, the god of mayhem and wine, on the side of the stage. Just it was a crazy thing to watch this, because Malkmus is really sedate, when he's playing and stuff like that. He's not doing a whole lot of stuff. He's pretty calm. And then this guy Bob is smashing shit. It was pretty crazy to see them do that live.
Oh, I can imagine. But, they are. Yeah, go ahead. What you were saying.
No, Gold Sounds. One of the things about Pavement is, every song, like you said it earlier, hey, there's 3 or 4 songs in this one song. Malkmus just had this ability to write these incredible melodies. And I am always wondered, why aren't people doing more covers they could do beautiful covers of Pavement songs, because the melody, if you pull the melody out and take a lot of the noise and the lo-fi distortion out, the actual melody is gorgeous. And in Gold Sounds, I feel that.
I think, when you remove, and like you just said, you strip away the grunge, you strip away the whatever that pedal they're using in it. It's just, there are Range Life is a beautiful song. It is just it's even the lo-fi sound. It really is a song that really just touches me. And I think it's beautiful. I think Cut Your Hair is fun, but Gold Sounds is to find out that it's one of the most popular songs by this band is considered one of the best. And I don't know if you've seen the video, but I watched the video. It has the band romping around dressed up like Santa Claus in different Santa Claus outfits. Yeah. Now this is one of the reasons that I think the song is so popular for them. I mean, it's definitely between. Yeah, here it is. Is this the video?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, dude, there's just, it's just every video from this area. It's like Mr. Show with Bob and David spoofed everything so perfectly. This is Jeepers Creepers, kind of. No,
yeah,
just a little bit. But
you can see the Sony Handycam here with the big,
dude,
tape in it.
High production quality for sure.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, is that this is the song that is definitely their most popular. It's it's the one that people talk about. So I want to ask you this: when did you first realize the popularity of Dwight?
Well, I We were almost canceled a whole bunch of times early on.
How? Really?
And yeah. Oh yeah. Our first season, I think, was 6 episodes, and then we were only picked up for like 5 more episodes for season 2, and then they only had and then they're like, okay, you can do like 1 more, and then okay, you can do 2 more, and we were on the bubble. They were just deciding whether to cancel us or not.
Was the budget the same season 2 to season 1 or no? Like they give you at least a little bit more money?
I think it was a little more in season 2, and then it definitely went up after that.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget, like early on in season 2, I was traveling. I went through the Detroit airport, and a baggage handler ran up to me, and he goes, yo, Dwight, read my phone. And it was a flip phone, like with the SMS text that you had to kind of like punch into the keypad, like you get the 3 tries kind of thing. And he held up the phone, and it just said, fact, I can and do cut my own hair. And he's like, my daughter and I, we send Dwight quotes back and forth to each other on our phones. And this was like 2005, 6,
wow.
Like super early on. And I was like, in my head, I was like, this show's not going to go anywhere. This is
sure.
If a baggage handler in Detroit is sending funny quotes with his daughter, there's something lasting about this show. So that's kind of when I knew in my head. I was like, we're not going to get canceled. We'll be around. And sure enough.
Oh my God! What do you think was there ever a jump the shark moment where it was like, this is way too big now?
You mean like tone wise? Like
it's just like holy no. You can take it any way you want. I'm just saying, was there ever like where you're like, holy shit, this show has grown into something far bigger than anything I could have ever imagined? Like, that it's like it's almost too big now.
Yeah, we did the fire drill episode. That was the lead in after the Super Bowl. So we were like, it was the Super Bowl, and it went right into the cold open of the fire drill, where Angela throws her cat in the ceiling, and Dwight says, "Today smoking is going to save lives," and he starts the fire, and then we were kind of like, I think we were invited to the Super Bowl, and it's like, this is kind of crazy. Wow. But the other crazy thing was, people don't really even know this. Like when the show ended, we went to Scranton and we did an office parade, and we did a Q&A and a little like concert and panels. And there were like 15,000 people in the city of Scranton just lined up to see us and to celebrate the show. And, there's a lot of popular shows, there's, 2.5 Men was a super popular sitcom, but I don't know that tens of thousands of people would show up to a 2.5 Men kind of celebration, like in person.
Cult-like status, right?
Seinfeld, dude, no, you've reached a level. The Office has reached a level where I'm telling you, it's bigger than television. It is a world changing thing where now the world is different because that's come on. And I know that's a weird thing to hear, but Seinfeld, dude, my dad's best birthday present we ever got him on his 60th birthday. We took him to the Cosmo Kramer reality tour here in Manhattan. We surprised him with it. It's the real Kramer. I don't think I've ever seen my dad cry harder. Because they love it. Because, dude, you know it. Because ultimately, we're still human. We still, regardless of what we're doing in our lives, there's things that bring us down to reality and are that matzo ball soup, that thing that makes us feel good. For me, it's The Simpsons. I can put The Simpsons on anytime I feel happy, sad, whatever, and it will always play and make me feel like a little kid. And I think The Office is something that is on that level. That is, dude, long after you're dead and gone. You'll be in the Smithsonian, dude. You will be in the fucking Smithsonian with Fonzie's jacket, and Judy Garland's shoes.
Will they embalm my body like Chairman Mao and people line up to see my corpse?
I would.
That's
that
when
weird?
you know you've made it.
Dude, I want to go. I want to go straight Lennon, dude. I just want to be all embalmed and have it be open, and just people are like putting like little notes.
By.
Yeah, man. All right, I still got a little more work to do, but we'll get there. It's awesome, dude. It's fucking awesome, and you coming on even for this is fucking rad. Jer, what other shit do we got to talk about on this record before that's really important? Did we miss anything?
Well, I think one thing. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, Jeremiah, but one thing. I think people miss the song "Unfair."
What do we got?
The South takes what the North delivers. Down through the flowers and the faster go. There's not. And it talks about the hills of Beverly. Just really, it is an angry anthem condemning Southern California from the viewpoint of folks in Northern California. And it's true that in California, there's a snobbery of like LA, Orange County, San Diego is like the cool place. And there's a lot of North Central Cal that's like, considered white trash. We were mocking Modesto earlier on, but This is an angry, if I were in Northern California, I would be playing this all the time. This should be the anthem of North Central Cal.
dude, Southern Cal and NorCal, it's not, I never felt the beef of it, but there's definitely a totally different everything, man. Even the way they say hella up north and down in the south, it's like down in the south. What do they say in Southern California? They say Coolio.
They do. They
say Coolio. Those idiot, those fucking mooks. They don't know what they're doing, But that's the thing, dude. NorCal is a whole different world, and what's even crazier is once you get, it's like, dude. If you're in Los Angeles or the surrounding areas, those real close areas, or if you're in San Francisco and those surrounding areas, if you go into that chunk on the 5, I mean, it's nothing. It's
a whole other world.
It's range life, dude. Yeah. It's lo-fi, but it's beautiful. And I think I don't think this album fits into Southern Cal, nor do I think it fits into NorCal. I think this record fits into that Modesto. Because a lot of good shit came from Modesto, man. The fucking the Zodiac Killer. He came from Modesto, or he killed in Modesto. But
what are those guys with the rappers with the clown masks? They're from up there somewhere.
Insane Clown Posse.
They're from up there somewhere. Yeah.
Just became friends with them because they're friends with Jelly, and Jelly started, and so we got to meet all of them. And I'm fascinated. I don't know if you've ever
friends
researched
with the Insane Clown Posse.
Not friends, but
are you a boogaloo?
A juggalo. There's a huggy duggy doodle and a scoodly doodly doo boogaloo. I'm a boogaloo. No, they're just because Jelly came from that world. And so what was really cool about being on tour was, keep this in mind. Jelly has only been a name in the entertainment industry since about a year ago. So we announced the tour in February, and from February until August when we went on tour, he blew up. And then while we were on tour, he blew up even more. So the roots of what he still has is like, he started with 3-6 Mafia. He started with like Yellow Wolf. He started with the Insane Clown Posse. And so he hasn't forgotten about any of those people. And so you'd be backstage and fucking like weird motherfuckers will come back there with fucking face tattoos and, and it's insane. But I think that's what's so beautiful about him and about music is just, and about this career is that, dude, he was fucking doing shit just like, just like you, just like me. We work and just hope and keep throwing shit up against the wall. And then one thing hits. And then from that point on, hopefully it's all cream cheese. You're never happy, but we should be. We should be happy because we've done so much. Yeah, dude. Here, let's talk about this. Let's start wrapping this up. And because, dude,
I cut off Jeremiah. Jeremiah, are we leaving anything out?
Two quickies. One is during the Slanted Enchanted tour, Gary Young, his behavior became more eccentric. We talked earlier about how the switch of drummers took place here. But he would hand out cabbage and mashed potatoes to fans at the door of the venue. He'd perform handstands, drunkenly fall off his drum stool, and run around the venue while the band was playing. Malkmus later said, "We knew that he was like a hippie and kind of flaky, but we didn't know he had such a bad drinking problem. We found that out on that tour. And that's why I let Bob be in the band, keep the beat going as Gary passes out." And none of the guys had the heart to like kick him out of the band. But you mentioned earlier, Dwight Nastanovich, he was the one who had the chutzpah to go to Gary and said he kicked him out of the band, and Steve West took over for him. So I thought that was a pretty good one. And then the other one is Pavement began work on their final album, Terror Twilight, in 1998. And the band originally planned to self-produce it, but then they never got around. They kept playing Scrabble. They never got around to making the album.
Slackers! Slacking around with your slacker culture. Slackity slack. They are slackers, dude. This band is so slacktastic. I love that. I love that about them. Dude, I'm gonna be such a huge fan of Pavement now because they're such slackers. Also, like, dude, like, you know, they pioneered this sound. I think there aren't any other bands that are they're so satirical. There's so much sarcasm. There's their lyrical themes. Like, you could just go on and then you're hearing these beautiful ballads and love songs that Malkmus has written. It's incredible. But there's something about it that keeps, that just keeps them in this little window of indie rock. And then for them to, break up, where was it? I think I had the fact up here. They break up in 99. Yeah. Between the members, there's acrimony between the members, but reconvened in 2010. And as of the last couple of years, have been on a successful international reunion tour, which I would fucking love to see. Yeah. I have to ask this question: how often are you guys asked or offered some kind of office reunion?
Well, yeah, I mean.
You made so many guttural noises.
I would do something with The Office again, but on a really limited basis, like an Office movie or a couple episodes or something like that. I don't think Steve or John want to do anything with The Office, and I don't necessarily blame them. We made kind of a great show. Let's let it sit, but. They have like office reunion things where, fans get together with, I think there's going to be like yearly office conventions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's different than a show. But I did get to see Pavement in 2010 on that tour. I got to meet Malkmus, which was incredible, meeting one of your heroes. And they just embraced on that tour, and I imagine on the most recent tour, they just embraced, like, we're just going to play our greatest hits. Because when they used to tour back in the day, I saw them once in DC, like I said, I saw them 2 other times in New York City in the early 90s. Like, they would maybe play one of their better known songs, but they would do like 15-minute just jams. You didn't even know what song they were playing. And,
sure, yeah. I can see that.
And the wheels just kind of falling off. So now if you go see them, it's a Pavement greatest hits, and they kick ass on the song. They play them really well. They're tighter than they've ever been. It's a great experience, and it was a truly exhilarating concert to see that 2010 and have them play all of the gold sounds.
I love that. I love that, to see that, you're always worried about certain bands. You're like, are they going to play the songs? And thank God do you ever go on, like, before a concert, go on setlist.org, or if you just type in every set list from almost any concert ever is online. And then you can see, like, so you're going, I'm going to go see Madonna this weekend in Madison Square Garden. And you can look at the 2 shows prior and go, all right, she's playing, this is her opener, into this, into this, into this. So you could go into the concert if you don't want to, like, some people don't want to spend the money. So like, I don't know, they're going to play the songs I want, but it's great. And I mean, for someone like Pavement, especially someone like me at the level of a fan I am with theirs. Like, if they don't play the hits, man, I'd be fucking lost because I don't know any of the deep cuts. So that's great. And they're on tour now.
I don't want them to necessarily play Newark Wilder.
No, yeah, I want range line. So we mentioned they are going to be again talked about. So when is that next episode? It's 100 and what is it? It's the chair.
Oh,
so slanted in a chair. Okay, here we go.
In November 2025 is when this comes out. Episode 135.
All right, so you'll be back. We'll be back for that one. Yeah, dude. And then in the 2020 re-rank, this album fell to 434, so 222 spots. And 1995's Wowie Zowie comes in at 265, and Slanted and Enchanted fell to 199. So this is a band. This is an important band. I mean, this is the 2020 re-rank. They added a record. So the people that voted...
Let's put it this way. 3 of their 5 albums are in the Rolling Stone Top 500.
Yep.
Insane.
That's pretty nuts. This is 30 years after they were... 30-some years after they were recording these albums. So... It's
crazy. That's crazy, but that's the whole thing. Is that, like I said, it's Big Star. Like Big Star made 3 records, all 3 albums are on the 500 greatest albums, and I bet you most people couldn't tell you who the fuck Big Star is or what one of their songs was. And I think Pavement's another one of those bands where people, you say Pavement and you're like, I think I've heard of them. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, the 90s and if most people have never dug into them, but I'm telling you, the people that know music, like a la us and you, and I mean, they're a band that is way more important than just the surface. And I'm excited to listen to the other records too, man. I think I'm not going to give up on this quickly. I want to keep listening to them. All right, let's ask you these questions. We'll get you out of here. Dude, you rule on so many levels. Favorite song on this record?
Believe it or not, I'm going to go with Stop Breathing, track number 3. It's and that is just because I have no idea what it's about. It has an emotional power to me. Stop breathing for me now. And I don't know what the hell he's talking about, but I remember those early spins of the cassette, my early spins of the cassette or CD I bought, where it just transported me. So I'm gonna go with Stop Breathing. What about you, Jeremiah?
Jared, what do you got? What's your favorite?
Man, I love this whole album. I think I would really Silence Kid. I know it's like the first track, but god damn, it's so good. Silence Kid.
Yeah. All right.
I'm without a doubt Range Life. Because I saved that song on my Spotify like favorites a couple years ago, and so when I dove back into this, I'm like, oh my god, I love this song. Perfect. And the rest of the record stick out. Dude, when you said Stop Breathing, is that the song where at the end it has that big outro, that boom doon 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 boom doon 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 doon, and it's kind of like builds and builds? Is that the song? There's something in the first few tracks. I forget what it is. It might. I mean. How about this? When we post it, I'll put a little message in it.
I can't remember about that musically if it does that. But,
let me see if I can pull it. While you look up, I'm going to find it. While you tell us what's your least favorite song on this record.
I would say Newark Wilder.
Really?
Yeah. I don't get that song. I don't love it. Some of the other weirder ones I love, 5/4 Unity, Hit the Plane Down, Heaven is a Truck. I like even Fillmore Jive, but that one I don't quite get. But that's okay. That's part of Pavement is like especially when you get to Wowie Zowie, there's songs on there you're just like, what the hell is going on here? And I think that's why that one has become more and more popular as time goes on, because it's like throwing spaghetti at the wall. It's a crazy mishmash of like styles and songs and cuts, and it breaks every single rule.
Fuck. God, you're so right. Cool. And it is the song. Your favorite song is the song that I was talking about. I do love this, where it's like this. Hold on. But can you hear this?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I got to do it through the headphones. Usually it works through the mic. It's just, I love the ending of Stop Breathing. All right. Yeah. Can you fuck to this record?
Nah, this is not a fuck record.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's not. It isn't.
It would be too distracting. You know what I mean? It's like when you try and have sex like in a hot tub, like there's too much going on. You know what I mean? Like
swishing, yeah.
It's just water, and it's noisy, and it's kind of breezy, and like someone could walk by, and you're just like, where do I put things? And it's like, it's too much. You know, there's a reason. There's a reason.
It's this also. I would never call this a sexy record.
You could get a hand job. You could get a hand job to this record,
without a doubt. Without a doubt.
You get a hand job because you'd be like, wait, slow down. Listen to this. You'd be like, oh, isn't that good? Okay, keep going. Okay, good.
Yeah, you can't fuck to this. This isn't a fuck record. And not saying that people probably haven't tried. I bet this era, it was a popular record. People probably have had sex to this. People were probably conceived of this record. But I bet those kids that were conceived of this record are pretty cool. they're pretty cool kids. You know what I mean? All right. Yep. What would be your elevator pitch to get someone to listen to this record?
I would say this record defined 90s hipster urban culture. So if you want to know anything about 90s hipster urban culture, talking like Williamsburg, Brooklyn, this is, but any hipster neighborhood, you pick it out, like Wallingford in Seattle or Silver Lake in LA.
I was just about to say Silver Lake.
Yeah. Then Georgetown. This is the album that defines that whole culture. So
you couldn't have said that any better, man. This is a very it's extended past the year that it came out. It's like 1994. Incredible era of music. I feel like you can put this record in some of the greatest records, maybe even the top 10, if not top 5 records that came out in that era, and what you would consider the alt/grunge. Because I think this has that same feel still, but it's a little bit smarter. And I mean, it sounds like we said, it sounds like 94, but it's still something that today you can listen to, and it sounds almost.
It doesn't sound dated at all. If you put this on Gold Sounds, and it sounds like it was recorded yesterday. It does not sound like Stone Temple Pilots. That was, very clearly recorded in like 1992.
Hey, don't shit on STP, dude. That's oh, what are you doing here? How you doing? All right. No, it's not no buts. They rule. They rule in their own way. But so does Pavement, and you rule. Please promote away, Rainn. You rule, man. This was a lot of fun, dude. Promote away. What do you have going on? Anything you want us to talk about, or?
Nah, this is fun, man. What a great assignment you've given yourself. What a super fun idea for a podcast, and, fight the good fight and keep music alive. And this is awesome. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you. You will be back. Please come back. We would love to have you on, whether it's the next Pavement record or just look over the list, and any of the records that you have a connection to, they are yours. Okay.
Right on, man. I appreciate that. Thanks so much,
of course.
Guys.
Dude, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rainn.